Hello and welcome to Apologetics 101. I'm your host Brian, and today we are going to be talking on living fossils. And we got our special guest today is Dr. Carl Werner, and uh, and we'll be discussing this issue with him. He's going to be bringing a presentation, and then I have some questions afterwards, and we're going to go from there. Without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to Apologetics 101. I'm here today with Dr. Carl Werner, and we're going to be discussing living fossils. And I'm going to let Dr. Carl Werner introduce himself and jump right into his presentation. And then following his presentation, we'll have some questions. All right, go ahead, Dr. Werner.
Thank you. Um, as he said, I'm Dr. Carl Werner. I am a physician and also a science researcher. And for the last 40 years, my wife and I have been going around the world interviewing scientists and photographing fossils about the topic of evolution versus creation. And this year we had a big announcement that we had uh, documented 150 frauds in human evolution, and actually that the theory of evolution had collapsed in 2024. Today, though, I was asked to speak on the topic of living fossils, and this is one of the components why the theory of evolution has collapsed, because the living fossils have now been demonstrated that the scientists were misleading the public in the museums. And in actuality, all the natural history museums of the world that we visited 104 museums, have misleading displays about the past to make you believe in evolution when in fact they have left out the most important fossils. So that's who I am, and I'm going to be talking today on the topic of living fossils. Now, a living fossil it's a fossil, it's a rock, but it looks like a modern animal. And it would be like a fossil of uh, uh, a dog. You know, you find a fossil dog, but it looks just like a modern dog, or a fossil rose. It looks just like a modern rose. That's what a living fossil is. And although the evolution scientists have kept this quiet, um, in reality, all of the rock layers of the world, starting at the top, going all the way down to the bottom, say like at the Grand Canyon, they each layer contains modern animals, which is evidence that evolution didn't occur. Now, if you went to a museum today, you would be convinced that evolution was true because of their displays, but in reality, their displays are fraudulent. If you don't mind, I'm going to go to slides now, and I'm going to share a slide presentation to show you how the natural history museums have defrauded the public, including the school children that go there to see these displays. So I'm going to go to screen share here, and I'm going to start up my thing. And can you see my slide that says, "What was their world like?"
Yes.
So this photograph was taken at the Los Angeles Natural History Museum, and they imply that the time of the dinosaurs, the age of the dinosaurs, was different. And it was an unfamiliar scene with unfamiliar plants and unfamiliar animals. And this is incorrect, but I want to show you how they're misleading the public with these slides. This is also from the Los Angeles Natural History Museum. You see the four duck-billed dinosaurs here, but see, there's no modern animals with the dinosaurs. And this is false because there are modern animals with the dinosaurs, but their displays suggest that the time of the dinosaurs was different than the time of now. And they create this illusion that life evolved. Like this was taken at the Carnegie Museum. There's no modern animals with these two dinosaurs. That's a T Rex and a Triceratops. And if there's no modern animals and no modern plants, this would imply that during the time of the dinosaurs, everything was different. And so evolution had to occur. You have back then you have strange and unusual plants and animals, and today you have the modern plants and animals. So that would say that animals and plants changed over time. And so that implies that evolution is true. But this is a false teaching of the evolution scientists and the museums. Here's another picture from Dinosaur National Monument. And again, you see the dinosaurs, but you don't see any modern, fig trees. You don't see a modern, iguana on the ground. All you see is extinct animals, again, giving the false impression that evolution occurred. And here's another one from this museum in Oklahoma, Sam Noble Museum. And here's another one. You just don't see any modern plants or animals. And so you're kind of stuck in, if you go to the museums, you're kind of stuck and say, oh, I guess evolution occurred because, wow, look at these great animals, but there's nothing modern with them. And so that's across the globe, the museums give these false impression, like the plants. You wouldn't be able to name one of these plants. You don't see an apple tree here. You don't see, a sequoia. You'd be hard pressed to say, I know that any of those are modern plants or animals. In fact, the evolution scientists take it one step further and they say that the time of the dinosaurs was the age of the reptiles, meaning that back then during the dinosaur time, the mammals were either so small you wouldn't see them, or they'd be so strange that you wouldn't know what they are. But the dominant animal back during the time of the dinosaurs, according to evolution scientists, which is wrong, was the reptiles, the big dinosaurs. But my wife and I had the honor to disprove all this information, and we wrote it up in our book called Living Fossils, which you can buy off of our website, thegrandexperiment.com, or you can get it off of Amazon. And there's also a TV show, which is in the form of a DVD also, that you can watch this. You can also watch this online as a streaming video. If you go to my website, we'll give you how to watch this. But this is a fascinating topic. And this is one of the reasons why evolution collapsed this year, because this is yet again another proof of evolution that was used that has been overturned. My wife and I basically traveled 298,000 miles to make this all work. We went to different museums, interviewed different scientists, photographed different fossils. And at the end of this journey, we were able to show that modern animals, modern plants lived with the dinosaurs, and that's what you would expect if God created the world. I want to explain that. There's basically two theories of origins, how we got here. Like Christians and other religious people believe that God created the world and all the animals and plants at one time. And evolution suggests that God does not exist, and that plants and animals changed over time or evolved. So let's do these two theories. First of all, the Garden of Eden, according to the Bible, which turns out to be the correct scientific interpretation, there were humans and then there were these modern animals. I don't know if you can see this or not, but on the bottom left here is a flamingo. So they would say modern humans at the Garden of Eden lived with modern birds, lived with a snake, which is a modern snake, modern flowers. Right here is a modern mammal, and dinosaurs. In other words, During the time of the Garden of Eden, God had made all the plants, all the animals, and everything that's alive today would have been there. And also the animals that went extinct during the flood would have been with them at that time. Now, they might not have lived in the Garden of Eden. Most of the dinosaurs were found in North America, South America, Africa, um, not in the Mesopotamia Valley. So humans might not have ever seen a dinosaur, but the dinosaurs and the extinct animals were living with the humans. So during the time of the Garden of Eden, the Triceratops was living. The different dinosaurs that you're familiar with from Jurassic Park, all these would have been alive during the time of creation. The story of creation also says a second event occurred. The first event was God created all the plants and animals in 6 days, okay? The second event, thousands of years later, uh, and all this is relatively recently, less than 10,000 years, all this occurred. Creation occurred less than 10,000 years ago, and then the flood was less than 10,000 years ago. Then there was a flood, and this flood would have mixed everything up. And so you would expect from the flood, you would have modern plants and animals mixed with extinct animals like dinosaurs. So you would expect, if creation was true, you would expect the rock layers today to show dinosaurs buried with the creatures that were at the Garden of Eden, like the flamingos and the ducks and the boa constrictors, and modern versions of it. Evolution doesn't teach that. Now, evolution teaches something crazy. It says that the earth wasn't created 6 to 10,000 years ago, but evolution says that the earth was created 4.5 billion years ago, and it started out with just a small bacteria, smaller than the dot at the end of a period of a sentence. And that bacteria then changed into humans, changed into plants, changed into hippopotamuses, changed into oak trees. This one bacteria, it changed and evolved. And according to the theory of evolution, there were no modern species of plants or animals found found during the time of the dinosaurs. See, they would say, no, there was no modern oak tree when the dinosaurs lived. But creationists would say, no, they all lived together at one time. The dinosaurs went extinct, but no, this is so different stories. Evolution says everything was different. Creation says, no, everything was the same, that's still living, but yes, some animals went extinct. So evolution teaches that all the plants were different during the time of the dinosaurs, that all of the birds were different during the time of the dinosaurs. See, like this display, there's these two weird birds down here at the bottom. These are called Archaeopteryx, but they're not living today. Archaeopteryx is not living today. That's not like a duck. It's an extinct animal. And this is what evolution teaches, that the birds were not the modern species of birds. See, Archaeopteryx, it looks a little funny. It has a funny tail. It has some funny teeth on it. And so that again goes along with their narrative, evolution's narrative, that everything was different during the time of dinosaurs. Now, it's all false. I'm going to show you why it's all false here. Evolution also teaches that during the time of the dinosaurs, the mammals were different. They would say there was no dogs, there was no hedgehogs, there was no modern, Tasmanian devils, there was no modern squirrels. They would say all the mammals were very small and different than today, and none of them were the same species. And like this mammal species down here is called Gobiconodon. It was found with a dinosaur, but they would say there's no Gobiconodon today living. All this is false information, and I'm going to show you why in just a bit here. Evolution also says that the reptiles were different during the time of the dinosaurs. Evolution would say that there was no modern boa constrictor species, no modern box turtle species, no modern iguana species. You have just these extinct animals like T-Rex and Triceratops and some other non-modern species. And there you go. You go back to these displays, and they all support these ideas that everything was different during the time of the dinosaurs. But there it was my dichotomy that I it was like, this doesn't make sense because I knew already from our travels and our interviews that the fossil record does not support evolution. The fossil record looks like creation. And let me show you what the facts are. This is a display from the Chicago Field Museum, and I put in the number of fossils they found. See, they found like 78 T Rexes here. So, yeah, they have a lot of T Rexes, and they got 242, Triceratops types or Stegosaurus type animals, and they have these ceratopsians. They have 10,000 of these, but they have no ancestors showing evolution. When you put these numbers in, which we had to get interviews with the evolution scientists, the numbers say that these animals did not evolve, and it's for every animal group basically. It's like the bats. There's 1,000 fossil bats, which is quite a fossil record, and there's thousands of fossil mammals like tree shrews or a mouse, but the animals that are evolving between, let's say, a mouse or a tree shrew that's halfway evolved, like animal D, where his front arms are getting longer, like the wings of a bat, but not fully able to fly. These would be the intermediate missing links. But we have 1,000 bats, we have thousands of fossil mammals, but we have no animals in between, which would suggest that evolution didn't occur. And same with pterosaurs. We have 1,000 fossil flying pterosaurs, which are extinct. And we have thousands of these reptiles like ground lizards and the like, but there's no half lizard, half flying reptile. There's no these animals that are in between these missing links A, B, C, D, G, F, G, H. There are no fossils of those, which again says, well, that's not evolution. That's just, you just got two animals and you're trying to say one animal evolved in another, but you have no proof of that. And it gets even worse in the fossil record that all 7 animal groups, like the corals, like the sponges, like the vertebrates, like fish, like the worms, each appeared without ancestors. They would have evolved from a small bacteria, which is, this bacteria would be smaller than a period at the end of a sentence. You'd need a microscope to see it. And yet you have fossil bacteria, thousands of them, and you have hundreds of fossil corals, but you have nothing in between. This is the first coral that appears. This is the first arthropod that appears. This is the first worm that appears. This is the first fish that appears. Each one just suddenly appears, which makes the case that evolution never occurred, that they misinterpreted this. But the fossil record screams of evolution because there's no modern species. They told us, and that's a lie. That's not true. I'm going to show you why this is wrong. See, the fossil record shows no intermediate animals. That's screaming creation. But then when you ask them, did you find any modern animals? They say no. Did you find any modern animals with dinosaurs? And they would say no, we did not. And so it's like something's wrong here. How could it be that you have no ancestors to prove evolution, but you have no modern animals with the dinosaurs? And it took me a while. I thought about this for a long time. How could this be? How could you have this dichotomy and either one is wrong or the other is wrong? And then I started thinking about this fossil called coelacanth, and it was a fossil fish that was found, I think, 1933 or something like that. And it really surprised the scientific community because they thought this fish lived at the time of the dinosaurs, and they thought it had been extinct for 65 million years, which I don't believe those dates, but whatever. And all of a sudden they catch one off the coast of Africa, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is the fossil that was found next to the dinosaurs. But they played their trickery and said, no, this isn't a modern coelacanth, it's a different species. And so, how do you argue with this? So, I decided to try to prove this that there were modern animals with the dinosaurs. And I then, when I say I mean Debbie and I, started a film company and started filming. I don't know how many dinosaur dig sites we went to, maybe a dozen dig sites and, you know, 100 museums with dinosaur fossils. And I'd ask the scientists, either at the university or at the dig sites, sir, have you found any modern animal or plant species here at your dinosaur sites? Because if creation's true, there should be modern plants and animals found with the dinosaurs. And they would uniformly say, no, there's no modern species of plants or animals at the dig site where we find the dinosaurs. And I go to the next dig site and say, hey, excuse me, sir, have you ever found any modern species of modern animals with your dinosaurs? No, we have not. We have never found a modern species of a plant or animal at this dig site. Sir, at this dig site, have you found any modern species of plants or animals? And the answer was no. And again, this put me back as like, I just asked all these scientists, and they just basically said evolution was true because there's no modern animals buried with the dinosaurs. And it's like referring back to the Garden of Eden and the flood, if modern plants and animals like the flamingo I showed you, like the boa constrictor, like, you know, the apple tree, if those modern plants and animals were in the Garden of Eden along with the time of the dinosaurs, you know, the dinosaurs were living then, you should find them at the dinosaur dig sites where they're buried in the flood. But they said no. And I just pondered this, like, how is this possible? Because either one is true or the other is true. And I'm getting two completely different answers, whether I'm looking for ancestors of evolutionary ancestors, there were none. But when I looked for modern animals next to the dinosaurs, there were none. I persisted. And then I thought about it as like, maybe I'm asking the question wrong. Maybe the real question is, if I phrase it that I believed, it sounded like I believed in evolution. So, because I think I was tipping my hand when I'd say, did you find any modern animals with the plants, modern plants or animals with the dinosaurs? It makes you sound like you're believing in creation. So I said, I asked the question to all these scientists from that point forward in a different language. I said, in in the scheme of evolution, have you found any that kind of looked like a modern animal or a modern plant next to the dinosaurs? And as soon as I changed the words to not modern species, but kind of look like a modern animal or plant, they all said yes. We found lots of them. Like this scientist, I was going to show you the video. I'm not going to show it to you, but you can see the video clip of Paul Sereno. He's a National Geographic scientist here at the University of Chicago. I asked him, Dr. Sereno, did you find any animals like birds that kind of look like modern birds? And he then told us, oh, yeah, he said that many of the modern bird groups, like parrots, penguins, and owls, were found with the dinosaurs. So when I took out the word modern species, but just said kind of, he said, yes, we found basically all, he and his other colleagues said, we found all of the modern bird types with the dinosaurs. They all live with the dinosaurs. That was Dr. Clemens, Dr. Sereno, and the like. You can read the details in my book. And so all of a sudden, now the time of the dinosaurs is starting to look like the Garden of Eden with the flamingo next to the dinosaur, next to the boa constrictor. And then I asked to Dr. Lowe, and he's at the Carnegie. He's a mammal specialist. Did you find any mammals in the dinosaurs layers? Yes. How many did you find? 400 species of mammals in the dinosaur layers. Did any of those mammals that you found next to the dinosaurs kind of look like a modern mammal? And he said, oh, yeah. And then he started to list the ones that looked similar to modern animals, but they still held on that there was a different species. And this went on and on. We then interviewed this fellow, at the Kew Gardens in London, the botanical garden there. Did you find any plants or animals that were modern species next to the dinosaurs? No. Did you find anything, any plants or animals that kind of look like modern plants next to dinosaurs? Oh yes, we found oak trees and walnut trees and sequoias and sassafras trees, all with the dinosaurs. So now I've realized, oh my gosh, all the modern plants looks lived at the time of the dinosaurs, just like creation would say. And uh, but the problem was that these scientists kept their faith in evolution, but said, "Oh no, none of these plants or animals that look modern are modern species. They're different. They're slightly different, so they're not modern." And I thought about this. It's like, now, how could that be? How could you not have modern animals that weren't modern species? It'd have to be modern species. Eventually, I realized that they
An
were
animal's binomial scientific name comprised
changing
of a
the
genus name and then a species name.
genus and species names of the fossils so they could create the illusion of evolution. Like, for example, a dog is the genus Canis and the species Familiaris. Canis familiaris. Humans are Homo sapiens. So what they were doing is when they found a modern animal or a modern plant, they would change these names. So a dog would uh, Canis familiaris, but they'd call it something else. I want to show you how this worked out. At this point, I realized we've been photographing the wrong fossils. We're already up to about 100,000 photographs at this point. And Debbie, my sweet wife, who goes along with, we don't need any more dinosaurs. I want to try to prove that these animals
Hey, Carl.
are the same species as modern types. So I want you to photograph the fossils found next to the dinosaurs. And she said, sure, which ones do you want me to photograph? I said, no, you don't understand. I want you to photograph every fossil in this museum that's on display that was found next to a dinosaur. And she looked at me cross-eyed like, you want me to take 5,000 photographs today? You're going to have to help me because this is going to be, we're going to see if in fact that they are modern animals, that they just change the name to create the change the species and genus name to create the illusion of evolution. So here we go. This is a modern nautilus shell. Now this animal lives about 300 feet below sea level, and it has, if you cut it in half, it has the body chamber, which is easily broken off because there's no support on it. That's where the heart and kidneys are, out in the outer chamber there. But the inner chambers are pressure chambers, and there's a tube running from pressure chamber to pressure chamber where they can suck the air out and then they can lower their density and sink or rise up in the ocean. And that is what a modern nautilus looks like. But we then, in this photographing Debbie, with me asking Debbie to photograph all these fossils, we then were able to prove that they were changing species names. Look at this. This is the modern nautilus on the bottom left. And I removed the body chamber because it easily breaks off because there's no support on it. And here is a fossil that was found next to a dinosaur. And both of them, the museum has cut them in half, okay? So one is modern, the bottom one is modern. The one on the right top is dinosaur. But watch what they did to the species names. This modern one, the genus name is Nautilus, the species name is Pompilius. So they would say this is called Nautilus pompilius. Well, what would you name this shellfish that you found next to a dinosaur that looks exactly the same? By the way, I want to show you here. In the modern one, here's the siphuncle chamber. You can see where it would go there. But in the fossil, you can actually see the siphuncle. It's preserved as fossil, and each chamber is the same shape as the modern. It goes all the way around to the finish here. It is an exact, more or less an exact copy. So you would say this is the same animals, but watch what they did when they found a modern type looking nautilus. They changed the name. They called the fossil Sinoceras lineatus. They put it in a different genus group. They said it wasn't a nautilus, it's a Sinoceras, different species. It wasn't Pompilius, it was lineatus. And so then that's how the evolution scientists have made this a story of evolution work, because they say, look at the genus and species of the animals changed over time. No, they did not. You just changed the scientific name on paper. That is the same animal. And this went on. Once I figured this out, and Debbie was continuing to take these 100,000 photographs, we could do this for animal after animal, that they were changing species names, which is very dark. They should not have been doing this. I went on on different dives, and I was looking for the matches to the fossils. And you can see this video in. Let me go back and just show this for a second. I won't do the audio for it, but we went diving in the Great Barrier Reef, looking for fossils of for live animals that match the fossils. I'm just going to let you watch this for a second. This is my footage, and it's from the movie Living Fossils. This thing is massive. And there I am diving at the Great Barrier Reef, and what I'm trying to do is to find a living coral that matched the corals that were found at the Carnegie. And this was really cool because I found I got filmed with this this huge fish. It was a spectacular day, I'm telling you, to dive on the Great Barrier Reef. But anyway, so what they're doing is changing the genus and species name. On the left is a dinosaur era snail. It's a little bit broken off at the top. On the right is a modern snail. And yet you'll notice they changed the genus name again in blue. That's the same genus, that's the same animal. You would be very hard pressed to say that that was not the same animal. It should be the same genus and species, but they changed it. And look at this. The modern alligator skull from a modern alligator on the left, and this alligator that they found up in Canada at the dinosaur dig site called Dinosaur Provincial Park. Yes, the septum, see the septum of the nose here on the modern, it's easily broken off. That's a very fragile bone. The septum is missing, but that could just be because it broke off because it's a very thin bone. But essentially it looks the same as, no different than two different dogs that are of the same species, like a beagle and a Great Dane. They look that similar, and yet they changed the genus name. And here is a fossil feather star, and the modern feather star on the bottom left and on the right, they look, if you look at the left ones, they look the same. I mean, they just I'm nearly exactly the same, and yet they changed the genus and species name. Same with the mammals. They found this hedgehog next to a dinosaur. It looks, the fossil is on the bottom, and the fossil animal, the drawing is on the bottom left. It looked essentially like the modern hedgehog jaw, and yet they put it in a different genus and species name. Same with the brittle stars, same with the mayflies. Here's a mayfly larvae fossil found next to a dinosaur on the top right. Here's a modern larvae, and yet they changed the genus and species names of these animals. Same with the guitarfish. They look the same as the guitarfish that were found with the dinosaurs. Same with the katydids. Same with the horseshoe crabs. Same with the starfish on the bottom left. They look like the same animal, but they always change the genus and species names. So you could call this talk living fossils, but maybe a better name was have the museums lied to us or have the museums misled us. I want to show you what they should have on display. This is a Carnegie Museum, and this is their display with a T-Rex and a Triceratops. But they left out the duck that was found next to the dinosaurs. They left out the possum that was found next to the dinosaurs. This diagram, this painting at the Carnegie, should have a hedgehog on it. It should have a duck. It should have a loon. It should have an avocet. It should have an albatross. It should have a boa constrictor, because all these animals were found in the dinosaur layers. It should have a box turtle. It should have an iguana. It should have an alligator and a crocodile. It should have a Tasmanian devil. It should have a squirrel-like animal, a beaver-like animal. It should have duckbill platypus. It should have all the modern plant groups, not all of them have been found, but representatives of them all have been found. Like there should be a sequoia tree in this picture, pine picture. There should be pictures of all the animals that you would see living today with the dinosaurs. Left them out. All the museums are misleading children with these displays. All the museums are portraying that evolution occurred with the animal groups when in fact they did not. So this is a big, serious problem. I'm going to go to questions here in just a second here, but this is a big, serious problem. And this is one of the reasons why the theory of evolution collapsed in the year 2004. The other reasons have to do with the frauds. Let me see if I'm pointing to it, that we pointed out in my book here on human evolution, 150 frauds. And the other reasons have to do with that the mechanisms of evolution don't work. And the other reasons is that they have so many mistakes in the field of evolution. Literally, in human evolution field alone, they have like 43,000 mistakes that we documented. And so this is the time for great joy for Christians, for Jewish people, for the Muslims, anybody that believes in creation. Because, back in the 60s, there was, I think, a magazine cover that said, God is dead. And that was because evolution was proved to be right. But now they need to reprint that magazine and say, uh, evolution is dead and naturalism is dead, because they misled everybody. And now the only plausible theory that works is that God created. That's why there's no ancestors to any animals, that they just suddenly appear. And that there was a flood. That's why we have all these dinosaurs buried with modern animals. And that's the truth. Everything else is misinterpretation by the scientific world. So thank you for letting me have this few minutes to speak by myself. I was thinking maybe we could go to take your questions now and maybe bring this back to the audience. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Dr. Werner. I appreciate that. I actually have your book right here, Living Fossils. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's
great read. I
nice.
would definitely recommend it. Great presentation too. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, you went around to all these dig sites and museums and you discovered that they were that these animals that they were either exactly or very close to exactly similar to what is modern animals and
That's right.
found alongside dinosaur fossils and things like that. And we're not being told this. It's not a matter of public record, which I find it kind of ironic. But and they're giving them different names, right? They're changing their names. Is that right?
Wow. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's perfectly stated. And that is the problem. And I would like to mention that they've had 30 years to correct us, because when we were doing these interviews um, in the year like 1997, they knew this information. And that's information ended up in my book in 2007. So this information has been out since 1997, that we wrote it up in the book called Living Fossils in 2007, but the museums have not corrected. They've had more than 25 years to correct this, and they are not correcting it. I've called them out on it. And honestly, I believe that the museums need to be defunded from the public sector. They should not be getting any public money. If they're going to mislead school groups of children and hide the facts that ducks were found with dinosaurs and flamingos and penguins were found with dinosaurs and parrots and owls, that they don't deserve a nickel of our money. They should be defunded, in my opinion.
So you see that there's an actual evolutionary agenda to try to push evolutionary beliefs onto the public.
It's incredible. And the more you know, the more true your statement that you just made there becomes even more evident. I'm just giving you a thimbleful of what I know of how they're misleading. And there's actually, a swimming pool full of misinformation. I just gave you a thimbleful today, but there's a swimming pool. And if anybody wants to do this with me, I could go over it for 4 or 5 hours, but it's misleading, false information from the museums, the scientists, the the television documentaries, misleading information, and they know many ways that are misleading. Yes.
One of the things remember seeing you recently on Standing for Truth, Donnie's channel, and I'm actually a moderator in there, so I was in the live chat. I remember some of the evolutionists there was sitting there saying, "Oh, they're not the same thing," and I think the idea is that if they name them a different species or claim they're a different genus, it's not exactly the same thing, and it's kind of strange because it still looks exactly like the modern version of it, or close to it. And if millions and millions of years have passed, we should expect it to be a lot different than what we end up seeing it.
That's exactly right. That's very well stated again. Um, and here is the disproof to the evolution scientists. They might say, okay, you got two modern shellfishes, but you got a modern shellfish and a fossil shellfish from the dinosaur era, but look at the fossil one has this little bump on it, so it's different, so we'll make it a different genus and species. Well, that's stupid. And here's why it's stupid. If you go to my book, Living Fossils, and watch the video, we photographed, I'll say 50 skulls and 50 skeletons of dogs. That'd be like the beagle skeleton and skull, the Chihuahua skeleton and skull, the Great Dane. Okay, you get the idea. And if you lay these skulls next to each other, they're wildly different. Like the Chihuahua skull is so different than the boxer skull. And yet they're the same genus and species. The beagle, the boxer, the Great Dane are all the same. They're dogs, and it's Canis familiaris. So if you have that much variation just within dogs, then we know they're the same species because they can all interbreed. Then you can't call a little bump on the side of a fossil enough to say, oh, that's a different genus and species and animals evolved. It is crazy once you understand how much variation there is on dogs, even a sassafras tree. You could go out to your yard, go to a sassafras tree, and just start pulling off sassafras leaves one at a time. Each leaf on the same tree looks the same, okay? Each leaf looks the same. I'm sorry, each leaf looks different, but they're from the same tree. They have to be the same genus and species. It's from the same tree. But that's how much variation there is in leaves off of one sassafras tree. So if you have a fossil sassafras leaf and a modern sassafras leaf, but the fossil has a slightly different shape, you can't say it's not modern. That you can't say it's not the same genus and species. That's crazy. Look at the modern world. That's not how species works, and certainly not genuses. Yeah.
Right. One of the things that evolutionists would claim is that plants and humans and all life on Earth is related to each other. So the object of it is if plants is part of our alleged evolutionary history, then it would be very different during the time of dinosaurs and stuff. But you're finding, if I'm understanding correctly, you're finding modern species and genuses and things like that among the plants as well in the fossil record.
Yes. Yes, and again, that's very well stated. I appreciate having a very smart moderator here.
Thank
It really helps me to make my points because you're actually making them for me. So yeah, and you can see this in the book Living Fossils and in the video Living Fossils, and I highly recommend you do both. With the dinosaurs, they found walnut trees. Okay, walnut trees. With the dinosaurs, they found chestnut trees. With the dinosaurs, they found sassafras trees. With the dinosaurs, they found sequoias. And just it goes, the list is so long, I can't even do the list. But, and if you look at the fossil and the modern, they look exactly the same and they always rename them. It's bull crud is what I call it. I'm sorry for using that word, but it's bull crud because they're just making the illusion of evolution. There's no reason that you shouldn't say that the plants and animals living today lived at the time of the dinosaurs. Now, we didn't find all of them, and I've never said that you would because, a flood event, it's going to be hard to find every animal next to every plant and next to every dinosaur. You just wouldn't find that. But you should find some, you should find some modern plants and animals next to the dinosaurs. And we have found some. We found a whole book of modern plants and animals next to the dinosaurs, and that's my book, Living Fossils. I quit at some point. It's like I don't need to find any more. That's enough. That we found a Tasmanian devil, a possum, a hedgehog, a tree shrew, things like that. That's what I predicted I would find. Some, and I found some, and they look the same. And so, like the whole package goes together as creation and the flood, and that's truly what it is.
When you got evolution, though, evolution basically claimed that you would not find any of these alongside that, and so that alone would be significant. The fact that you are finding quite a bit. Um, so obviously, with the flood model, we wouldn't expect to find them all, and it's going to be probably a little bit more randomized.
That's
But
right.
but with evolution, the evolutionary claim is that these things evolved over millions and millions of years, and so even if they have them with the modern animal with that, they would speak significantly different, like some lesser evolved form of that animal. That also brings me to another question I want to ask. There are certain animals that evolutionists themselves would agree lived along with the dinosaurs, such as sharks, alligators, and the like. Um, that would also seem to suggest that those same animals would be different, like I said, less evolved form of those animals. When you see, have you looked into that to see what the sharks and animals that evolutionists would admit lived along with the dinosaurs? Did you see if they look basically like their modern versions?
Yeah, again, that's a great question. You are so well prepared. See, because evolutionists would say, oh, yeah, gars and alligators, they lived back during the time of the dinosaurs. They're an ancient animal, but they weren't the modern version. And I've heard that before also. But when you get a fossil gar and place it next to a modern gar skeleton, they look the same. When you do a fossil alligator and a modern alligator, they look the same. Going to the sharks, because they would say sharks live with the dinosaurs. When you look at a modern shark teeth and dinosaur era shark teeth, they look the same. They rename them though. It's crazy. In fact, in my book, I broke it down into each animal group and each plant group. So in the animal groups, we did, the invertebrates, and then we did the vertebrates, and then within the vertebrates, we did the reptiles, the amphibians, the birds, and whatever the fourth one is. And so we did that, and they're all there. And then we broke it down into subgroups. and they're all there. And so in the fish group, for example, the subgroups of fish, like the cartilaginous fish and the bony fish and the jawless fish, they look modern. Now, see, the evolution scientists would say, no, the jawless fish, like we have a jawless fish today called a hagfish, uh, that and the jawless fish during the time of the dinosaurs, and that's not true. They look the same. And the evolution scientists, when you pin them down, they would say, no, the jawless, the hagfish look the same. So yeah, even the ones that they would concede, yeah, that's a holdover from the time of the dinosaurs, but it's different. That's not true. That's a false statement on their part.
Awesome. Um, there is something else I want to know. When you talk about animals that just simply appear in the fossil record with no evolutionary presupposition or evolutionary uh, uh,
Ancestors.
ancestry, would like sponges or jellyfish or something like that. Are you referring to what scientists usually refer to as the Cambrian explosion, where they on the one of the lowest layers of the geologic column, they would sit there and uh, find com- what they call complex organisms, multicellular organisms, and even soft body organisms like jellyfish, and fully formed with no evolutionary presupposition, no evolutionary counterparts. Like the layer below that, I think is Precambrian, and it's got single cell organisms and things like that in it. And so, would you say is that what you're referring to when you say there's no evolutionary counterpart? There's no common ancestry being found with that. In
That's
terms
right. That's right. And again, I just commend you. You are so well read, and you have these concepts. So, are you a scientist? I never even asked you. Are you a scientist?
a scholar, but not a scientist.
I mean, it sounds like you're a scientist because it sounds like you've
I like
absorbed this
science. I
topic.
like science, history, scholarship, things like that.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
a apologist.
you, you've absorbed this information incredibly well. So let me explain to the audience who doesn't understand what our host is saying. If you look at the rock layers, let's say at the Grand Canyon, the top one is supposed to be modern, and then the bottom one, like going further and further down, the bottom one is supposed to be ancient, and you go down to the lowest layer of the sedimentary layer with animals in it, and it's supposed to have just like bacteria, which are smaller than the period at the end of a sentence, and just some weird animals, okay, at the lowest layer. Not necessarily at the Grand Canyon, but you have to go to specific places where you can get to the lowest layer, like you go up to the Cambrian layer in the Burgess Shell in Canada, or you can go to the layer right below that one in Australia, in Adelaide, Australia, which we've been to that one. But what you have is the lowest layer has modern animals in it. Now, this isn't dinosaur. This is way below what they say would be the dinosaur layer. The lowest layer, like the Cambrian, like the Precambrian, has modern animals in it. It also has modern bacteria in it. So the bacteria look the same and the animals look the same, but you don't see any of the animals between the bacteria and the first corals, like a sea pen. And you don't see any intermediates between a bacteria and, let's say, a trilobite, which is very complex. They have eyes and everything. There's no intermediates, and yet we have all these fossils down there. The number of fossils found so far is 1 billion, and we have fossils of jellyfish. We have fossils of soft things that you wouldn't think would fossilize. You should be able to see the evolution of a bacteria into a coral, like a sea pen. You see them none. You see none. And this is called the Cambrian explosion. Cambrian meaning the lowest layer, explosion meaning the animals suddenly appear. And by the way, many of them are modern looking. They look indistinguishable from modern animals with no evolutionary ancestors. That means that each group just suddenly appeared. The fish appeared suddenly, the corals appear suddenly without ancestors, the sponges appear suddenly without answers, the arthropods, the echinoderms, the starfish group, etc. It's so against evolution theory that the evolution scientists who are a little bit honest would say this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense at all with evolution.
Right. And I've actually seen evolutionary sources that talk about the soft body animals not resisting fossilization. They normally don't get fossilized because their
And that's
body would actually degrade like within a couple hours or something.
and that's bull because and excuse my language there, but that's bull. And here it is. They would say, but okay, you got the fossil bacteria, which how does that get fossilized? That's soft body. And you got the fossil, let's just say the coral, the sea pen. Okay. So they say the reason you don't see any animal between the bacteria and the sea pen, or the bacteria and the trilobite, or the bacteria and the shellfish, is because the animals in between were soft bodied and they didn't get preserved. But that's bull because we have all kinds of fossils that are soft bodied. Like we have fossil animal embryos that are like two cell, 4 cell, 8 cell, 16 cell. These are microscopic, perfectly preserved. We have fossil fish eggs. Now, fish eggs, that's not hard, that's soft, but we have fossil fish eggs. We have fossil animal poop. We have fossil flower petals. We have fossil jellyfish. Think of that, a jellyfish being fossilized. So it's it's a lame excuse that that's why there are no intermediates between the bacteria and the 7 animal groups because we have 900 million we have a billion fossils and many of the fossils are soft, and so you can't blame it on the poor fossil record.
Have you encountered any uh, arguments against the idea of the of you finding like say example someone tries to argue, oh well they're not exactly the same as these modern species and therefore you can't say that they're the same or the same kind or whatnot.
Yeah, the common excuse that evolution scientists would give you for these living fossils, they'd say, oh, it's not a problem. It is a problem. Just for everything we just talked about, it's a big problem. But they would say, no, we never said animals had to evolve. Some animals were just so perfectly adapted to the environment that they just stayed unchanged for 150 million years. Oh, that's just such a lame excuse. That is just so lame. And so what they're doing now is to kind of come up with sub arguments to evolution. Evolution means animals changed over and plants change over time. But now when we find that they didn't, well, some of them just don't. It just doesn't fit with the general argument that animals and plants changed over time. And then to change the genus and species names, you've lost all credibility as far as I'm concerned.
It sounds like a post hoc type argument, because evolution claims over millions of years they evolved. Usually, after about alleged 150 million years, you would expect a lot more evolution to take place. Regardless, they're not. No animal is going to be that so evolved that are so well adapted that they won't be able to be evolved in their view. So it sounds more like they're trying to justify why they look so much like the modern examples. And
That's exactly.
my understanding is you found snakes too, with dinosaurs.
Yes. Isn't that crazy? Just like the Garden of Eden picture that I showed you with the boa constrictor. Yeah, they found boa constrictors with dinosaurs. And the other reptiles they found iguanas with dinosaurs. And a picture of that's in my book. All this is documented in the book Living Fossils. So I'm not making this stuff up. You can find the sources for all this. But they have found other ground lizards that are living today, like the tuatara. They found those with the dinosaurs. And then the alligator group, they found all the alligator groups, such as alligators, crocodiles, and gavials. And yeah, they found all the reptile groups, not every one, but they found representatives from each group in the dinosaur layer. And yes, boa constrictors were next to the dinosaurs. But I want to ask you in the audience, when's the last time you went into a museum and saw a boa constrictor wrapped around the leg of a T-Rex or at the foot of a Triceratops? They never display them. See, and so then you get this idea that evolution occurred, but that's false. That's withholding evidence from the public, misleading them.
And if I understand correctly from your presentation, also you said that these are not being found with transitionals, which evolutionists have kind of done this kind of post hoc type argument where they try to redefine the word transitional to mean similarity, and it's like these things have transit. It's a you're not transitional just because there's similarities. Transitional is an in between state, so it's like point A, and you gave a list of letters there, and all the transitionals in the middle of that is completely gone. There's no transitionals at all. You just have fully formed features, fully formed animals. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I'll show you how the evolution scientists say they have transitionals. What they do is they start with two similar animals, let's say an ocean bass and a rock bass or a largemouth bass. But see, they're starting with two similar animals and they'll line up, and this is theoretical, they don't do this, can show evolution by saying, look, here's a rock bass, here's an ocean bass, here's a largemouth bass, here's a Kentucky bass, here's a smallmouth bass, here's, and they just take modern animals or modern or extinct animals that are already similar and say, look, they all look like a transitional form. We got animals A, B, C, D, E, F. But see, that's not what we're talking about. We're saying evolution says that yes, maybe a ocean bass evolved into a freshwater bass, but evolution also says that a fish evolved from a bacteria. Now, see, the difference between a fish and a bacteria is so enormous that if evolution's true, you should easily be able to see it. You can't just show us similar animals and line them up like a bunch of different human variations, from different countries and say, oh, look at there's evolution. You want to look at, if you want to test evolution and be honest, you want to look at totally dissimilar groups that are supposed to have evolved from each other, like a dog and a seal. Okay, that's pretty different. You think a dog evolved into a seal, which is what they believe? Show us the evolution of a dog slowly evolving into a seal, or a, a hyena-like animal evolving into a whale, because those two are so different. Show us that. Don't pick out 8 different types of sassafras trees and say, look, there's evolution over time. That's just fraught with error. Pick out the big animal change. In fact, you could make the case that humans evolving from apes is a poor example because they're pretty much the same size. And you could, if you had put the bones in a different position, you could kind of make the case that an ape evolved into a human. They're too similar. But when you look at a dinosaur evolving into a bird, or a whale evolving from a dog-like animal, they're so different. Either put up or shut up. You should be able to do it with the big sweep of changes. And that's where it falls apart dramatically.
I need to ask you about birds. You brought birds up just now. You said that they found modern birds in with the layers of dinosaurs. Have they ever found modern birds with Archaeopteryx? Archaeopteryx is supposed to be an early form of bird. Have they actually found modern birds with Archaeopteryx?
So, and that's another excellent question. So let me just educate the audience on what the evolutionists would call the dinosaur layers. They would say the lowest, I don't believe these, but the lowest dinosaur layer is Triassic. The next dinosaur layer is Jurassic. The next dinosaur layer is Cretaceous. Okay. So the Cretaceous is the youngest, it's at the top. And so it's Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. Now, T-Rex lived at the top one, in the Cretaceous, and the long-necked dinosaurs lived during the middle one, the Jurassic. And the Jurassic is where they found Archaeopteryx in Solnhofen, Germany. We filmed there. But the modern birds are all found in the upper layer in the Cretaceous. Excuse me. And so, no, they have not found any modern birds with Archaeopteryx or in the Jurassic layer. but I never predicted you would find every animal in every layer next to every, you know, that you'd predict that you'd find every animal associated with. In other words, if you want to say you need to show everything, that means you would have to show a dinosaur next to every animal that's ever lived on Earth. I never said you would find that. I just said you should find some if evolution is not correct. So, but to answer your question, though, no modern birds have been found next to Archaeopteryx or even in the Jurassic layer. All the modern birds are in the Cretaceous layer so far as I know. But you know, maybe they have found them and I haven't bumped into them yet.
Right. But they look like modern birds. That's the point.
The modern birds look like modern birds in the dinosaur layer. Like, yeah, it's a duck. Yeah, and that's a flamingo that is next to the dinosaur. And yes, that's an albatross with the dinosaurs. It's crazy when I'm saying out loud. It's hard to even say the words, you know. Oh yeah, that's a parrot next to the dinosaur. You know, this is so it's like as I said early on in this discussion, 2024 was a year that evolution and naturalism collapsed. The whole thing has collapsed. I can show anybody that has half hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, I can show them why the whole thing has collapsed. But the whole thing is over, you know.
All right. I wanted to ask you about insects because you had found insects also um, among the dinosaur. Is that right? Same layer as the
Yes.
dinosaurs. In your book, you mentioned finding a termite's nest in a petrified forest. Is that correct?
Yes. By the way, you can, if you go to Africa today, it's really cool. And you can see the termite nests. And like, I was photographing termite nests that was like 18 feet tall. They're huge, but sometimes they're small, like this big. But a termite nest has a particular shape. It's not an animal, it's just the nest, it's the sediment, and it has a particular shape. So they have found a modern appearing termite nest in the dinosaur layers, and it's in Arizona. The site is called Petrified Forest, Arizona. That's where you can drive around, and there's like, I'll just make these numbers up, 20,000 acres of 20,000 trees, all petrified, laying on the surface. It's a beautiful site. If you ever get a chance to go drive through Petrified Forest out in Arizona. But yeah, out there they found a termite nest, but yet they also found dinosaurs there. So yes, termites live with dinosaurs. Again, that sounds so crazy when you bring it up, doesn't it? It sounds crazy. It's like, how is that evolution? You know?
When do they think termites evolved?
You know what? I don't know that, but it would be at least because uh, the petrified forest site in Arizona is considered Triassic, and so that's like 220 million to I don't know 160 or something like that. So it would be sometime more than 160 million years ago, and yet they look the same.
Right. And you found like anthropods, those are like ants and stuff.
Um, I we found arthropods,
Oh,
and the arthropods are insects and they're also animals that have a shell on the outside. So, like, oh, katydid or anything, arthropods, they have their skeleton on the outside and the body's on the inside. Whereas, you know, like we have the skeleton on the inside, but the arthropods, it's an encasing around the animal. And so, yes, we found arthropod animals. That would be the shrimp next to the dinosaur, lobsters next to the dinosaur, crayfish next to the dinosaur. When I say these, they sound so crazy, you know, for evolution. I feel sorry for the evolution scientists. Yeah, we found all the arthropod animals that were aquatic, those, and then we also found the arthropod insects, you know, like the katydids and things like that. And guess what? For both of them, the aquatic and the insects, the arthropods look the same. They've all been renamed. to give the illusion that evolution occurred. But if you look at the pictures in the book, they look the same. Game over, huh?
Right. Are you familiar with cladistics?
Uh, Somewhat. I would not consider myself an expert. I'd be willing to take a question, but I might not be the right guy to ask.
Okay. Yeah, I had a interview with a paleontologist. Evolutionists use cladistics to try to redefine animals according to what they think is their common ancestry. Like they'll call birds dinosaurs or humans apes and things like that. So essentially, they're redefining that. I was wondering if there was anything similar happening there, where they would sit there and classify them according to what they think is their common ancestry.
Oh, yeah, that's in every field of evolution, and it's a tool to manipulate data. And let me give you an example on that field. They would say humans and apes, humans are apes, okay?
Right.
And the way they define that is as the, and I'm going to make these criteria up. I don't know the exact criteria, but this would be somehow how the argument would go. Look, humans have hair on their body, and look, apes have hair on their body. So humans are apes. Look, humans have two eyes, and apes have two eyes. Look, so the humans are apes. Look, humans have five fingers and five toes. Look, so the humans and apes are the same animal. We're an ape, and they would go through a list like that. You know, they're mammals and all the things are similar. And in their analysis, their cladistic analysis, they falsely left out the most important criterias. See, you can leave out things and then you can make a human an ape by leaving out these criteria. I'm going to tell you what the criteria are that they leave out. If you say apes have four hands, because you know the human hand has a thumb, but apes have four thumbs on their feet. Their big toe isn't like this, like a human, but it looks like another hand. In fact, they used to call apes quadrumania, four-handed animals. But humans only have two hands and they have 2 feet. So you could just define humans are not apes because humans have two hands, but apes have four. So that's why we're not apes. And here's another one. Humans have 46 chromosomes, all humans, and apes have 48 chromosomes. So humans are not apes. But see, they ignore that piece of evidence and they just
Actually,
keep
they
going.
try to get around it by trying to claim a fusion between the two of the chromosomes in the apes.
Yes, they
I've
have
got some
all
videos on that.
yeah, they have all the games, but in the end, when they make their quote analysis and they say humans are apes, they have just simply left out criteria. And yeah, so it's another manipulation of the data, but game over.
Right. I actually got a series coming out shortly this month called Are We Apes? And it's going to be dealing with similar stuff like that. I've heard that you are an expert at similarities between humans and apes or
You
differences
might,
between.
I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but we wrote a 3 book series on human evolution, which is it's outstanding. And let me just see if I can point to it over here. It's right there, that book there. Um, and what we did is we went through and um, identified all the ape men that have come and gone. We just released this, and this is why the theory of evolution collapsed in 2024. We released this book. It's called 9 Categories of Overturned Ape Men, and essentially we looked at all the ape men that I want to show you the inside real quick. It's all full of pictures and fossils and so easy to read, even if you're not a scientist.
I need to get
But
that
anyway,
book.
you do. It's so beautiful. And the 6 part video series too. that goes along with it. But basically, we looked at the 232 ape men that have come and gone. Do you know that there's been 232 ape men that have come and gone? Like, wow, what happened to that one? What happened to that one? And we decided to break them down and analyze them. What happened to them? And there were so many of them, 232 overturned species of ape men. We had to break them down into groups of what these ape men actually turned out to be after they were disproven by the evolution scientists. And some of them turned out to be just ordinary apes. Some of them turned out to be ordinary monkeys. That's hard to believe that you could misidentify a monkey as an ape man. Some of them turned out to be reptile bones. Some of them turned out to be non-primate bones. Like there's like 5 ape men that were made out of pig teeth, dolphin ribs, horse toe bones, uh, donkey skulls, you know, raccoon leg bones. That was another group, like barnyard animals that were interpreted to be ape men. Another group turned out to be recently buried humans, and that's humans that were buried in the last 100 years or so. You know, like great grandpa, you dig up his grave and say, oh, this is an ape man skull. No, that's great grandpa's skull. Um, there's a whole group of those that were found, like Homo capensis and things like that. Another group was ape men that
Froze up.
during the Ice Age, buried with Ice Age animals, you know. And there's just 9 of these groups. So, yes, in the course of writing that book series on human evolution, did learn a few things, but I wouldn't consider myself an expert. But I do think that the information we, you know,
Right. I need to get that book. Probably for my series that I'm doing. Are we apes? Maybe gonna have you on there for that later on down the road or something. Um, and
sure.
of course, I still want to do a video with you on transitional fossils, alleged transitional fossils, and then we can look at some of the things that evolutionists try to claim are transitional. But this has been great. This has been awesome. Did you ever find petrified trees in your searches stuff between the layers?
Oh, yes. Now, we saw tens of thousands of petrified trees at the petrified forest in Arizona, but there's also trees that are vertical. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, the
Yes.
ones that go through 2 or 3 or 4 layers. Yes, we filmed those in Nova Scotia, Canada, which is up there on the east coast and of Canada, and called Joggins Cliffs, where you see trees that are vertical and they go through 3 or 4 different layers. And no tree can stay living as can stay upright for 20 million years. So the only way that these trees were buried this way is that these layers were deposited shortly over the period of a year or so in a worldwide flood. And I could explain that with more time. But yes, we've seen those. And they're all over the world, by the way. That's just not at one place. The trees going up through multiple layers are all over the world. They're not just a one up kind of problem. It's a worldwide problem that speaks volumes that the rock layers were not laid over millions of years.
Right. I have another question also. Of all these animals being found with the dinosaurs, uh, when it comes to the dinosaur-wide extinction event, a lot of them would claim that a meteorite hit the Earth and that caused the death of the dinosaurs. Uh, the expectation would also be that these other modern versions of animals would also perish with the dinosaurs. How would finding these modern forms of these animals in the rock layers affect this dinosaur-wide extinction event that's believed by evolutionists?
That is the greatest question. I wish I had your brain. Your questions are so deep. I hope your audience appreciates you because I'll just explain what he just said. this evolution scientist falsely claim that the dinosaurs went extinct from an asteroid. And it's false because there's no dinosaur deathbeds at a particular layer at the top. The dinosaurs are evenly dispersed and they don't just suddenly just have a bunch of dinosaurs all at that one layer. But if it's true that you had this event that was enough, it was big enough to wipe out all the dinosaurs, and that would be the asteroid extinction theory. We did interviews on that, by the way, with the scientists that wrote that theory. But that asteroid would have even more killed the modern birds that were with dinosaurs and the modern amphibians and the modern insects with the dinosaurs. So you're saying an asteroid, you being the evolutionist, you're saying an asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs, right? Because it was such a big cataclysmic event. But we also know that the modern birds were there, the modern amphibians were there, and they're much more sensitive to the environment than a reptile. So why didn't the why didn't the insects go extinct? Why didn't the amphibians? Oh yeah, by the way, we find modern amphibians with the dinosaurs. Why didn't the amphibians go extinct? And we shouldn't have any modern birds. We shouldn't have any modern amphibians. If the dinosaurs went extinct, we shouldn't have any modern insects. Question profound that you just asked, and the way you worded it, I wish I could say it over because it points to that the whole idea that an asteroid destroyed the dinosaurs is malarkey. It is total malarkey taken in context of your question.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Could I make a plug for my uh, teacher's manuals and the homeschool curriculum?
Yes.
You know, to the audience, all this information is going to do the world no good if Carl Werner knows it and the host knows it, but your kids don't know it. Because the kids in this generation are getting swallowed by evolution, the false teaching, false facts, false information. And the only way this is going to get turned around is if we can reach the kids. And I beg you, if you have kids that are in schools that you have influence over or homeschool, that you go through our 4 semester curriculum on creation versus evolution. That's the green book behind me, Evolution and Grand Experiment. It's the blue book over here, Living Fossils, that we talked about today, and the 2 semesters on human evolution. If they go through this, they will be so rock solid on evolution, they'll be able to take down any college professor they run into later on that tries to teach them that evolution is true. Without it, I don't care if your kids go to church and you're a moral parent and you're living a good moral life. It's not good enough. Your kids are going to get convinced that there is no God. And so the only way to stop this is for the parents to teach this to their kids. 4 semesters. I wrote all the teachers' manuals. It's all science. You know, there's no intermediate person that's writing these manuals, and they're very easy to understand. But I just want you to know there's quality education, 4 semesters, and I beg anybody in your audience to do your part and to teach it to your kids. And you can get to all this through our website. You don't have to buy it from the website, but just to see what's available, go to our website, thegrandexperiment.com. That's the, and there's no space, thegrandexperiment.com.
I'll have the website in the link in the description box below so people can see that.
Okay.
Also, as a parent myself, I have a son, and one of the things that my son's very inquisitive. You know, he'll ask all sorts of questions. And that's one of the things he will sit there ask questions of because he's being bombarded with evolutionary ideas, both from school, from YouTube, from all different kinds of ways, and it's always good to have this kind of information in front of you so that you could be able to talk to your kids about it. It's one of the things I enjoy about being a Christian apologist is that I already know this stuff so I can answer his questions. It's always good to actually know this because your children are going to have these questions because no matter how hard we try to avoid it, they're going to be faced with these influences. And
All over, all every day in high school, college, grade school. Yeah, they need to be equipped.
oh yeah, definitely. Before we go, I want to ask you another question on mammals. You found mammals with the dinosaurs, too, didn't you?
Yes, 400 species of mammals have been found with dinosaurs. 400. There's only 700 dinosaur species, but 400.
Don't
Now,
evolutionists think that mammals and dinosaurs are separated by like millions of years?
no, they would say, if you ask the expert, we interviewed the expert there, Dr. Jeshi Lowe at Carnegie, they would say 400 species of mammals lived during the time of the dinosaurs. But see, the public's never told that. And what are these 400 animals? They're all weird names. You would have to take 10 years of your life going around trying to photograph each one. But I can say for sure that the evolution scientists would say of these 400, the following look like modern animals. Like there looked like there was a duckbill platypus mammal next to a dinosaur. That's one. There looked like there was a beaver-like animal next to a dinosaur. There's two. There looked like there was a hedgehog mammal next to the dinosaur. There's three. There looked like there was a Tasmanian devil next to a dinosaur. There's four. It looked like there's a possum next to a dinosaur. There's five. You know, and they would probably come up with a list of 10 or so like that. But no one's ever done the work like we have for this general picture. Just go and look at these 400 mammals and compare the rest of them. None of them are big. The biggest one is about 25 pounds. It was it was called Rapinomanus, and it was a Tasmanian devil kind of like animal, and it had a dinosaur in its stomach, a baby dinosaur. So, but they haven't found a giraffe next to a dinosaur or a lion. Don't get. I'm not saying that, but they have found 400 species of mammals, and they have found 10 or so modern versions, or they look like the modern type next to dinosaurs. So that's enough. That's what I predicted. You should find some. And generally, when they find a mammal in a rock layer, they'll say it's not from the dinosaur layer. They'll just say it's from the layer after that. But that's kind of like circular reasoning. You know what I'm saying?
Right. All right. Do you want to give some final conclusions, last word on the discussion, just to kind of let people, just kind of just you talking to the audience and discussing the subject.
Yes. As I said at the beginning, in 1960, there was a magazine cover that said "God is dead," and that was because the scientists had proven that the universe had formed naturally and that animals and plants formed naturally, and there was no God involved in a creation, and that the universe and the earth was millions and millions of years or billions. And now we've come full circle. This is 1920, 2024, 64 years later, and it's the actually opposite. Evolution is dead, naturalism is dead. That is the Big Bang, the universe forming naturally, the formation of the first life naturally, the formation of species, the theory of evolution and how it worked. All this has collapsed. And then finally, this year, and this is why the whole thing has collapsed, is that the human evolution has collapsed. We found 150 frauds in the field of human evolution, 150 frauds in the field of human evolution. And these are documented in our 8-part video series you can get to online. Everybody needs to wake up. It's time to stand up and cheer and do a dance and woo or something and shout from the housetops. The theory of evolution has collapsed. This is what you should believe, and this is what's true. And if someone is out there and doubts me, bring me to your university and I'll do this in front of your professors, and they will. I don't want to say that I want to embarrass them, but embarrassingly they would not be able to answer my questions of why their theory really doesn't work. So the whole thing has collapsed. Now it's time for the common person, the non-scientist, to grab this from me and other science, evolution, creation scientists, and spread the word, because this is the best year we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and I'm excited to be part of living during the time when a big theory goes down. You know, this has happened before, like in the 1600s with Galileo. It's happened before in the 1800s with Louis Pasteur disproving spontaneous generation. You know, about every 100 or 200 years, there's a big theory like, you know, how the universe is shaped and things like that collapses. And it's really a confusing time for the people, but we're living through that. We just lived through it. And now we just have the remnants of the scientists who are still holding on to evolution. But as one famous scientist said, is that scientific progress occurs at one scientist's funeral at a time. Because, see, the scientists that are living today that believe in evolution, they're not going to believe this no matter what. I can show that, give them the same talk. They're going to have to die off. And then these younger people that are listening today are going to run with this that evolution didn't work. But the historians are going to look at 2024 as saying this is kind of a Galileo moment when the entire theory of naturalism has collapsed. And if you don't believe that, you'd have to have me give that talk, but I can walk you through the steps. And so, yeah, this is the most exciting time. You should have a smile on your face. And if you don't, I need to inspect you and see if you even have a pulse because you should be very happy. So, thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you again, Dr. Werner. I appreciate it. You did awesome. And I hope we can do this again. Hopefully,
I'd
so
love that.
soon. Maybe come back and do one on transitional fossils, and and then if we could try to figure out a way to fit you into our React series, because I wouldn't mind getting your. I got the first two of your grand experiment books. I did not get the. I didn't realize you had a couple more books out on that. So, your third one's on apes, isn't it?
The third and fourth and fifth are just it's a human evolution series, mini series, 3, 4, and 5. And it's actually just 3 and 4. Book 5 is just a bibliography. So yeah, they're real easy reads. They're kind of expensive because right now they're only being printed by Amazon print on demand. But if you want to buy them and read them for a very inexpensive amount, go to my website and order the PDF. It's just an electronic document, and we'll email it to you. And you can read the book, each book for only $14. And it's beautiful. It just looks like the regular book, but you read it on your phone or your laptop and or your computer. And so don't let the price keep you away because you can buy it electronically until we can figure out how to get these mass produced and get the price down.
Right. Um, Again, thank you again, Dr. Werner. I
You're
appreciate
so
it very
welcome.
much. And hopefully, as you mentioned on Donnie's channel on Standing for Truth, hopefully this gets people into thinking. Just think about the issues, think about what they're believing on evolution and that sort of thing. And I'm hoping that actually happens. I know that when you're dealing with beliefs, sometimes you don't want to let go of those, even when you find out that they're not true.
Yeah.
And evolution is a belief, and they we're going to encounter friction as a result.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of there's gonna be friction. People aren't gonna just take this and lie down and die. They're gonna fight every inch of the way, but we've already won it. So, you know, just
Right,
gotta learn the facts.
right. I actually did a video recently on the Y chromosome. There was a recent Y chromosome paper, and it's actually was looking very much like created kinds because of the Y chromosomes being so different between the animals and stuff. So it was kind of cool to go over that information because despite evolution's best effort, it does appear that the creation is true and what is being claimed by evolution is not because they would claim and that different primates were being examined and things like that and it's looking a little less like the way they're modernly tax the modern classified them and more like the way the created kinds are and
Nice.
it's interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yes, it is. But anyway, again, thank you, and I
You're
hope to
welcome.
see you soon. I
Thank
appreciate
you
your
so much.
review.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Right. God bless.
Bye bye. God bless.
thank you for joining me today, and I really appreciate it. This has been an excellent discussion with Dr. Carl Werner as we discussed the living fossils and the fact that these modern animals are being found alongside dinosaurs, and that's pretty cool. It's exactly in opposition to what we would expect if evolution was true. And so I thought it was pretty interesting as well. And so let me know what you think in the comments. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Like the video, give it a thumbs up. That helps a lot with YouTube promoting the video and getting this information out there to more people. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell. We've got a lot more in store for you. Hopefully, as long as nothing changes again, next week I'll be doing my interview with Dr. Georgia Purdom, and which will start the new series Are We Apes, and that's coming in this month. If everything goes right. And also by the end of this month, we have an interview with Jennifer Niza uh, from from ex psychic to save. You know, she used to be a psychic. She used to be part of the New Age movement, and now she is a converted Christian. And toward the end of this month, we have a live interview, and it will be the first live interview on this channel. So don't miss that. A lot more in store, so I can't wait. And I will see you next time. And until till next time, stay in the know.